Now a word from our sponsors.
There's a great district attorney in San Francisco whose name is Kamala Harris. She's brilliant, she's smart, she doesn't look anything like anybody you ever see on Law and Order, yet she's tough and she's got a big future. They call her the female Barack Obama.
Just the female Barack Obama.
But if you don't have to dig very deep to find out, there are a whole lot of people just like him.
I grew up as a child of two parents who met when they were graduate students at Berkeley and were actively involved in the civil rights movement. They were marching all the time, and I was marching too.
Harris was a California co-chair for Senator Barack Obama's 2008 presidential bid. She campaigned for him in several states.
One of the issues that I believe will be addressed by Barack Obama is reviving the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department.
When we look at the situation that we are facing in our country, there are a lot of folks that need our help. And they need our help because we know that the only way true change occurs is when we mobilize from the ground up. But it is going to require us as soldiers in the field to help the president push this reform forward, because that change will happen not just in changing the face of the White House, but changing the face of our country when it comes to our poor, when it comes to those who need access to education, when it comes to those who need to have a country who sees the most vulnerable among us.
There is a lot of good work in the history of this country that has happened through the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice and needs to continue to happen. There are still challenges on every level around issues such as hate crime, environmental justice, and other crimes that frankly need a priority from the Department of Justice to be addressed.
Heroes for me growing up were the architects of the Civil Rights Movement. They were the lawyers, and they used the tool of the law to remind the world through the United States Supreme Court of what justice really looks like. So I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be a prosecutor. You can imagine going to my family and extended family and having that discussion was quite an experience.
Harris, the daughter of civil rights activists, credits her parents with teaching by example.
They were marching and shouting about this thing we call justice.
I wanted to be able to have the power of the prosecutor, to be the voice about what justice should look like and what justice would look like if it were to be relevant to certain communities.
Missing school may not only affect your child's education, it can also be a crime in the city of San Francisco.
Public education is the difference between having a life that is successful or a life behind bars. There's a direct connection between education and crime.
So then obviously chronic truancy.
The most that we want is that this child just goes to school.
So what are you doing?
So we started a mediation process, and it's been fantastic, because when the principal would otherwise call the parent and say, you know, Miss Smith, Johnny's not in class, would you return my call? Call went unanswered. Now principal calls and says, Miss Smith, you know, Johnny's not in class, and by the way, that DA Kamala Harris said she might prosecute you and send you to jail, and the call gets returned.
Yeah.
Well, so literally prosecution means like what? It's a felony misdemeanor, you could go to jail, fines?
Would likely result in that parent being sent to jail.
Wow.
I've watched people get taken off the job sites and replaced by people from Guatemala. I mean, it's outrageous. It's just irritating, and we need to do something about it.
These are people who've broken our laws to come here. According to the Constitution, they would be considered enemy invaders.
Immigrant rights advocates say the Minutemen are breeding intolerance and hate. Claudia Rivera spent her Saturday at this immigrant resource fair in San Francisco, sponsored by District Attorney Kamala Harris.
Your immigrant status, whatever it is, does not, in our mind's eye, designate you as a criminal.
Harris wants immigrants to know that San Francisco police and prosecutors will protect illegal immigrants. Claudia Rivera says she came here illegally 3 years ago and needs a good job, medical services, and yes, citizenship.
Patriotism. It's a word that gets thrown around. And in my opinion, there are two definitions of patriotism. And what is a patriot? The first is that person who defends their country whatever it does. The second is the kind of patriot I am, and I believe you are. And that's the kind of patriot who believes in the promise of our country. It is the person who believes that we are and can be a real democracy in a place that is all about equality and treating all men and women equal, regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, or ethnic background. And at the end of my 8 years, I promise you, everyone will be wearing an American flag on their lapel.
When people question your blackness, you were on that bus, you were part of the civil rights movement, but the struggle is convincing people that this is a strong black woman who lived a strong black life, and why is there any question?
You're right, it's frustrating.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like
I inhaled. I did inhale. It was a long time ago. Listen, I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
What do you see as the biggest national security challenge confronting the U.S.? What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy. And that I can talk about because that's not classified. It really does. The threats to our nation take many forms, including the threat of autocracies taking over and having outsized influence around the world.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future. Dr. King, when he was assassinated, was on the verge of the next phase in civil rights. He was combining that fight for civil rights and justice with the fight for economic justice. We must continue the fight for economic justice as part of our fight for civil rights. We got to keep our eye on our affirmative agenda while we are handling all those attacks. Because we will not fully, I believe, achieve the dream of freedom until it includes economic justice for all.
Yes, we do talk about equity. We actually believe it is a good principle, in spite what some so-called leaders might try to suggest. We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. We understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base.
We must be clear-eyed about the fact that yes, we want everyone to get an equal amount. That sounds right. But not everyone starts out from the same place. Some people start out on first base, some people start out on third base. And if the goal is truly about equality, it has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Hey guys, you know what? America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table.
I wrote an article about you. I just outlined everything that everybody was saying about you. Whether she's black enough, does she like black men? She's putting black people in jail. But at the same time, I write that. And I didn't have a conversation with you. When we had the conversation and we talked about it, we talked about fried chicken and talking about all these different things. And then we talked about the gun and the FICA score and these different, so it was okay, it's like, I like this lady.
This morning, President Barack Obama officially endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for president, in addition to a statement that suggests he and Michelle Obama will do, quote, everything we can to elect Kamala Harris the next president.
The Kamala Harris candidacy is energizing Democrats across the country by just about any metric. Donations, volunteers, memes, they've all exploded on the scene. Hours after President Biden bowed out of the race and endorsed his VP on Sunday, more than 40,000 people joined a Zoom call for black women supporters, and they raised more than $1.5 million. Another Zoom call for black men drew more than 50,000 supporters the next day.
Brothers, y'all are doing this thing already. When we mobilize, we win. There's just no stopping it.
We make the assumption that women are going to be more excited, and we never think about the men.
We support women in every endeavor, and competent women deserve our support.
Polls consistently show Biden's decline in popularity among black voters, Win with Black Men says with Harris in, it's a new race.
It's important for black men to show we have Kamala Harris's back.
On Thursday, more than 160,000 Harris supporters joined one single Zoom call. That call was rallying white women for Harris. Participants in the call included the actress Connie Britton, pop star Pink, and the soccer star Megan Rapinoe.
This is our opportunity to show up not only for ourselves, but for black women. They've given us the whole playbook on how to show up and energize and be organized and tap into all of our networks. So let's just follow their lead.
They are thrilled. They are organizing with the kind of energy that reminds you of the early Obama years. People are feeling such joy, such power, such excitement that the Harris campaign has unleashed.
Vice President Harris is primed to bring her energy to this campaign and hopefully, if she's on the ticket winning the election, it's a big deal.
I think she is the closest thing to building on and expanding that Obama continuum, that coalition continuum, as we've had since Obama stepped off the stage.
I have what I call a 3 a.m. agenda that is about everything from what we need to do to deliver health care to how you will be able to pay the bills by the end of the month. And when I think about what our country needs, I promise you, I will be a president who leads with a sense of dignity, giving the American family all that they need to get through the end of the month in a way that allows them to prosper.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
That tells me what they think about you as black Democrat voters or those who will vote for Kamala. Hey, if we get her to get out here and dance with the AKAs, which, by the way, if you think about the fact if she's not really a black woman, what would be a great way to blackify her personality? Send her to Howard. What would be another great way to continue the blackification of Kamala Harris? Let her become an AKA. Those are great ways to blackwash your persona, because we've all seen, there are white AKAs, there are white alphas. It's not only black folk that do this. So I did think that was really interesting, especially when you layer the fact that the way black people treat sororities and fraternities is night and day different from the way white people or less melanated people treat it. Less melanated people usually are done with their sorority and fraternity after about the first year after they graduate. Black people, you are fraternity, you are frat, you are soror for life. So all the way to the end, and I just thought that was interesting. Okay. Crystallize her vision for the future of America. Where would we see that? Oh, we could look at what she's done as VP. That would be a great way to say, oh, maybe this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You see my point?
Yeah. She's had, her record is clear. She has said a lot. And now she may not have done a lot, but she said a lot. Her vision for America is very, at the end of the day, Marxist.
Oh, I got a whole clip of her talking about how she's going to spread out the equity. So it's not just equality, but it's equity. It's not just that you have Kevin and I both have the same opportunities, but that the same results. And the government is going to determine. And I got a clip of her just talking about it freely. I'm like, yo, that's not American.
No, she's a Marxist.
At all.
She's a
absolutely
progressive Marxist. That's it.
So real quick, number 3, black folks do not underestimate America's proclivity to racism and sexism that can prevent her from winning. So the only reason she would lose is because America is racist and sexist. That's it. They don't like people that are brown and they don't like women. I make this up not. That's what he said. Go ahead.
Man, it don't make sense. I've said the same thing. The same people who claim America is inherently racist and sexist are the very same people that are so sure that she can win. Which is it?
There you go. Like, how could she win? And then also, why are people beating down the door to get into a country that's so sexist and racist?
Yep.
I'm just wondering why is that?
This is one time I hope they're right. I hope America is as racist and sexist. This is the one time I hope they're right.
I just think it's insane. But look at this one. Because there was one in here that I was like, y'all are wild. Grassroots will respond to the energy of grass tops, micro influencers, celebrities, trusted messengers. So again, this is about power. This is not about resolving issues. No, I'm listening to them. They collected maybe about 15 grand in the call. They weren't giving an update, but they were just shouting it out every now and then. So I think it's about 15 grand. Maybe it was more. I'm sure it's probably more by the time the smoke cleared. But you'll put 15 grand or however much toward seeing an Indian woman from Canada become the president rather than doing anything in your community. Because I don't see y'all doing a Zoom call for the vets in your community. This is the part where I'm like, yo, the energy is dysfunctional. But demonstrations of how our collective power have overcome these barriers, and we talk about Obama. They he's the second coming of false Jesus. And then lastly, megastar power. They were really enjoying themselves over megastar power that is supporting Kamala and such like that, as if they like to paint the underdog scenario, but in the same breath, like you're saying here, they like to position like they're underdog, but in the same breath, it's already locked in the bag. And it's just so wild how they did that.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Number one is actually a false statement. She is going to inherit Biden's coalition because the same people are propping her up. The same people that handpicked her to be on Joe Biden's VP are the same people that got Joe to step down, and the same people putting her in that spot. She's propped up by the same machine. She ain't no different just because she's a woman of color. She's part of the same machine.
Same machine. The pervasive misinformation and disinformation. I'm sorry. What is the miss and dis? They didn't explain the miss and the dis. So, well, let me take it back. They love to talk about the locking up thousands of men in California. You know what? As I told you before, I honestly don't know. And my argumentation is not that, because the president doesn't lock up people anyway. So I'm not sitting there looking for you to be out, super cop. Okay. What I am looking for, however, is what have you done the last 48 months? That is, in my opinion, is way more telling than your role in California. Way more telling than what you've done in California, or even as a senator for the 1 year. It is much more telling.
I will say this. It was very telling. This is one of the reasons she dropped out that race, because Tulsi Gabbard went into her debate. Yeah. And the point she made was a very, very valid point. She did lock a lot of people up on small marijuana charges, right? For lengthy prison sentences. And then had the nerve to go on the Breakfast Club and brag about how she smoked weed. That's just hypocritical.
But we'll ignore that. We will give her, I don't even understand. Like, why are we giving her grace on that, but we can't give it on anybody else? Nobody else gets that same kind of movement as Kamala is going to get.
Power over principles, man.
That's it. We're not principled. And again, when I do the video in response to this Zoom call with the Alumni Association, it was really telling. I'm like, yo, why are we okay with a woman that literally one of her key achievements, her key platform planks, if the platform had 5 planks, this one is probably the largest plank, is on the continued deletion of little people. Why are we okay with that when Black people, brown people, murder more babies than anybody else? Why are we okay with somebody literally running on a platform that, hey, I want you to delete more of your Black babies? Just say that out loud. Like, that is crazy. And then to position ourselves as if we have some moral superiority over something else. Like, how is that? How is that even a thing?
Because we've bought into the propaganda that the Democrat Party has sold. Black people will constantly downplay abortion because they believe it's some type of right wing or Republican talking point. And they just simply shout out the whole thing about it's a woman's choice. It's a woman's body. Choice. You're oppressing women, right? And they're completely overlooking the fact that Black people are deleting themselves more than anybody, right? And these people are pushing it. Yeah, and it started out as a racist. And you want to talk about racism? Planned Parenthood started out with the purpose of keeping Black and brown people from reproducing.
Facts.
And it's worked. The Black community today is half of what it should be if it wasn't for Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood.
And I don't understand. Like, we can go, because we'll be quick to go back and talk about, somebody was talking about Emmett Till and somebody was talking about George Floyd and that's such like that. What about the little boys and little girls that won't be house, that won't be Spelmanites, that won't be alive, that are not alive because of this wicked, evil practice of Moloch worship to the God of convenience? And we literally are allowing somebody to play in our faces in 4K, to be excited, to be, dare I say,
boasting about, yes, I am going to, if Congress gives me a bill, I'm going to sign it to be in the Constitution that you can continue to munch up your babies all the way up to 9 months. How are you okay with that? How are you proud of that statement? It makes it completely boggles the mind. I should not be surprised.
Hit that like for deal with Christian. Yo, for deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian. For deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian.